So Zynga, we are one of the first and one of the leading social game developers. We have been building out and operating games on Facebook and other social networks and some mobile platforms since the summer of '07. And today we have, we just passed 14 million daily active users across all games and networks.
Is that just on Facebook or also including other properties?
It's not just Facebook, but Facebook is the biggest. We are probably around 10 million daily active users on Facebook and 4 on other platforms.
So before we kind of do a deeper dive on Zynga, so you've started 3 other companies in the past to some level of success with each of them. Freeloader was a company, was that the first one?
Yeah.
And then also Support.com, which went public in the .com boom heyday.
The last day of the .com boom.
Excellent, excellent timing. Excellent timing. Hope you got to sell some of those shares too.
Not as many as I would have liked.
Understood. Then Tribe.net, for those of us who remember, which was a modestly successful social network that I would have to say probably not.
That's overstating it.
I was trying to be kind. But
Yeah.
So let's, maybe if you give us a thumbnail on the other two, but I want to talk about Tribe a little bit. So Freeloader and Support.com, maybe just what was the arc of both of those two companies?
Sure. Well, Freeloader, I started in the fall of '95, and it was at the time one of the first push technology services. If anyone remembers that, some of you guys were in high school then.
Pointcast.
Yeah, we launched the same day as Pointcast. They were more popular, but we made more money. So we sold the company 7 months after we started it.
For how much?
38 million. And
how much funding did you have?
Well, it's definitely the cliche. I have a lot of the cliche startup stories. I had just before I started. I also like to invest in the markets, and I run my own fund. I call the White Knuckle Fund, and it's all high conviction bets, like very concentrated bets. So we've all seen diversification is good, but so just almost just before I quit my job to start Freeloader.
Oh, wait a second. How much money went into Freeloader?
Well, this is what I'm gonna tell you that I
more or less than 38 million.
Well, less, but what was kind of funny is I lost, I had 80,000 in savings when I quit my job, and within 4 weeks quitting my job, I lost all of it because I shorted the 3 internet stocks. So there was Netcom, UUNet, and PSI, and I was right eventually. Even UUNet with WorldCom would have gone to 0. So, but I learned, you have to be right in the short term when you're shorting. So I lost all my money. So then to fund my part of the company, I had to do the Best Buy credit cards and the 14 months interest-free, credit card thing. So what was funny is at the point that Freeloader got bought, I still, had 7 months left on the credit cards.
All right. So after that white knuckle experience, how did Support.com go?
Well, so this company called Individual Inc. bought Freeloader just before it imploded. It was a public company. Lucky for us, and what was
wait a second. They bought Freeloader just before Freeloader imploded?
No,
or they bought Freeloader before they imploded.
Before they imploded. Okay. So it's another cliche story.
And I take it you did not go with that acquisition.
Well, what was funny is my partner Sunil Paul and I negotiated this deal where we would be guaranteed the stock price, and we became the 2 biggest shareholders in Individual. But we were young punks and they didn't want us around, so they quickly tried to, get us out of the picture. So they're too quick. They were
Side
to hurry
note
it.
for the audience, learn about the term double triggered.
Yeah, or something like that, or just whatever it is, just get them to guarantee their stock price. Like, whatever you call it.
Okay, I'll work on that one.
Yeah. So then Sunil and I just hung out and went to Blowfish and Petro Hill and did nothing for like 9 months or a year, and sat around and thought big thoughts. And I got interested, so I started support because first we were interested in trying to really condense this. We got interested in starting this free PC company. I followed like every trend. So remember that one? So we were going to start a free PC company. We found out nobody wanted free PCs. Luckily, before we offered them, so nobody trusted the model. They thought you were going to like take advantage of them. But we built this technology. We figured the way we'd get people on our free PCs was with this software that would intelligently clone your old PC to your new one, because everyone we asked said that was the thing stopping them from buying a new computer, was their kids' games and stuff, that they didn't want to have to move. So we built this technology for that, or I did, with some brilliant software guys. And then we found out no one wanted a free PC, but my software guys came back to me and they're like, you don't understand, like the software we built is revolutionary. And it took them like 2 days to explain to me what it was and what it did. And then I was like, oh shit.
That's a typical engineering problem, actually.
Right. Explain it to the dumb business guy who then takes it to market. So anyway, it was this amazing technology. We call it DNA probe that could, I'll talk to you guys too, it could immediately find the working state of any Windows software on a PC or server at any time. And so we figured that's got to be valuable for something. And so we got a little office in the corner of Excite, and they wrote the software, and I tried to figure out what we'd do with it. And we eventually turned that into an enterprise software company, and we built this category called support automation software. What's interesting about that company is it took us 2 years before we actually got to a product that had a scalable market. And the hardest part, and big lesson for me, was that we actually had companies that were willing to pay us for the software long before we knew what the eventual business was. And the hardest, we had Morgan Stanley that was ready to give us $1 million for an ESD, electronic software distribution product, which was like the business that Marimba was in. And I had to fight my whole board and my entire company. Basically, nobody agreed with me that I decided we were going to turn down the $1 million and not go into ESD, because I said it's like Vietnam. Like people went into that business, they never came back out. Like, in Marimba, it was a good example. So anyway,
He's still trying to do that business.
Yeah, it's a big lesson in life. Is like life's too short to struggle and fail fast. But even in a company, you can fail fast into a successful product. So what was good though was that we realized that I used to say there was dust on the doorknobs for the help desk manager. Like no one had tried to sell the guy software in a decade. So there was a lot we could do for them. And so we repositioned our software to be automating the job of the help desk manager, which had a clear ROI. And we became the most boring, profitable company in the middle of the dot-com boom. I mean, to the point that Accel was one of our investors, and they literally asked me if I could cut my partner presentation short by 20 minutes because this really exciting company was coming after me. I don't even remember their name, but there was some company that was building a GUI for Linux. Do you remember that? And it was like the rock star people from Apple. Easel, yeah. So Easel was presenting, and so Accel asked me if I could cut my presentation short. Because it's so little interest, they pat me on the back.
On the note of cutting your presentation short.
Sorry. I asked Dave to cut me off if I go into...
I'm giving you a long hook there, buddy.
Thank you. All right.
So support.com was some level of success, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was...
You went public.
We went public, but I'd also say I considered it a success because we were a profitable public company for 9 years.
Okay. In
Our-
contrast to a lot of other companies that went public.
All of our private investors made money, and our early investors made 20 times their money. So I don't know. I think it was successful.
Okay. And next up, I guess this is the conversation. I mean, certainly not to belittle that. It sounds like you made money for your investors, and actually, achieved a level of success that not many other people have achieved before or since, but a small percentage. But then you dived into the world of social networks with Tribe, and at the same time, there were a lot of other social networks going on. In fact, as I remember, Jonathan Abrams at Friendster, Reed at LinkedIn, and you all sort of were both doing your own social networks as well as in bed with each other to some extent. And maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about sort of what that period of time was like and what was going through your head around social networks.
Sure. Well, for me, it began with I had invested in Napster a couple years earlier, and I got really interested in this concept of, I called it the P2P internet, and I didn't mean like P2P software, but I was really interested in this idea that the individuals on the net could connect to each other, and they didn't need a middleman anymore, and they didn't need Amazon or IAC, and the whole IAC business just bugged me, the whole idea that someone's going to own these databases with all of our information and they're going to charge us to access it. It just seemed stupid and wrong, I mean, long term. And I also really got excited about the consumer internet in Christmas of '02 and into '03 when everybody hated it. But these numbers were coming out in Christmas of '02 that were phenomenal. The Amazon and all these e-commerce growth numbers were amazing. And I remember Reed Hoffman and I both kind of came to the same conclusion at the same time, and we started kind of having like a support group for each other, because we're like, really, consumer internet is good. And
Social networkaholics and all
yeah. And there was a very, very small number of people who had any interest in consumer internet. We both hooked up with Jonathan Abrams at the same time, and nobody had any interest in Friendster or funding Friendster. I have to say, we didn't think it was a good investment. We both put the money in because we just thought we'd learn something. In fact, I thought it was such a bad investment that I made Sunil Paul take half of mine. And I was putting in 15K. Like, I literally was putting in 15K.
So wait a second, you were consumer internet believers, but not social network believers, even though soon after that you started your own.
Well, I didn't see, this is before Friendster launched.
Okay.
So I was like, it's in this zone. It fits into my macros, but I don't really see it.
Were you playing around on 6 Degrees or Rise?
Those were, 6 Degrees was kind of done by then. I was looking at Rise, and it wasn't really working for me. It wasn't exciting. But when we invested in Friendster, I was getting really interested in this idea of creating like a person-to-person eBay. So I was like, if Napster could meet eBay and people could just trade with each other and just tell the cloud what they have and what they want, and it could just be intelligent. I was like really into that. So Friendster, I was like, that's a piece of the puzzle. I invest in that.
So in your head then, really, like social networks were more an avenue to person-to-person commerce, not so much just
No, I thought person-to-person. I just thought person-to-person interaction would be huge, but I really wanted a business model.
Okay.
I was into classifieds. I just thought classifieds was this amazing business model if you could connect the two. So anyway, to move it along faster, so we invested in Friendster. I was already working on Tribe. Launched Tribe, which was a great business plan that was executed okay, not great, and ultimately, I think it was a great idea that didn't have market traction and lived on for all the wrong reasons.
And what was Jonathan Abrams' reaction to you launching Tribe? Because you were an investor in Friendster at that point, right?
Well, and all this, many of us have these dual roles of being investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and it is very important to me, like I'm sure everyone here, that we are transparent. And I was upfront with Jonathan even at the time that I invested, that I was working on Tribe and I was going to launch it. And I said, soon after he launched, it was clear he wanted to go into the dating space at the time. And I said, I'm never going to go in the dating space. I'm interested in classifieds. He got frustrated with me because, and Reed, because he thought, Friendster was going to be like probably what Facebook is now. And so he felt like anything else doing social networking was interrupting his opportunity.
And at the time also Reed was beginning LinkedIn, and so he was looking at both of those as being potentially competitive.
Yeah, not exactly competitive as much as just overlapping in ways that he would have rather not to happen.
Okay. Meanwhile, well, I don't know what the exact timing was, but MySpace was coming along in the background of all of this, and
MySpace was nowhere on the horizon yet.
Right. Okay.
I
So
mean,
Friendster still had like a huge growth that was happening over the next year or two, and then eventually a period of time where they weren't able to sustain that growth scalably, I guess is maybe the kind way to express that. So during that whole time frame, what was your kind of reaction to where this was going? Was it like interesting to you that Friendster was having a huge amount of growth? And did you sort of like think at that point that it was becoming a more interesting place to play?
Well, it was clear that social networking it was clear pretty fast that social networking was going to be something major. I think Reed and I both thought from the beginning that social networking and the whole idea of the social graph was going to be something that was going to be kind of forever. Neither of us thought it was a fad. We saw lots of social networks start to appear. I wrongly thought, that the right answer was to focus even more on my niche, which was local, person-to-person classifieds. And I hung on way too tightly to a model before I had obvious consumer traction around it. So